Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and we're going to talk about what the really fantastic tabletop role-playing game 13th Age means for Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. Alright, so let's talk about 13th Age for a minute. So 13th Age is a really fantastic tabletop role-playing game. I've been familiar with it for a long time. It's really quite interesting. So it's exactly like Dungeons & Dragons in that it's a generic fantasy tabletop role playing game. It has a lot of crossover. It's an incredibly well respected tabletop role playing game, and it does a lot of things that I love. I really like it a lot. I've known about it for years. I think it's at least 5, 6, 7 years old now, and but recently, I just got a hardback copy, which I was able to read cover to cover, and I was just really stunningly blown away by this game and what it accomplishes. It's a really fantastic tabletop role playing game. So let's talk about what 13th Age is and what it means for Dungeons and Dragons 5th Edition. All right. So and by the way, the way I was able to get it is most of my Dungeons and Dragons money right now is going. Actually, a lot of it recently went to Magic: The Gathering Adventures in Forgotten Realms, but generally I've been buying up old books, old 1980 traditional hardcover Dungeons and Dragons 1E and 2E books, right? And I do this on Noble Knight Games, and they had a hard copy of 13th Age for $12. So I'm like, I'll take that, right? Yeah, that's like 75% off. And so I read it cover to cover, and I was just stunned, right? So what does 13th Age do that's so? I should say this, right? Because people are like, wait a second, Scott, I thought you didn't like other tabletop role playing games. I think we should only play D&D. Well, I hear you. All right, so why did I get this? Well, one, I highly encourage dungeon masters to buy other tabletop role playing games. And the reason why you can do that is you can just go read these other, and this is exactly what I'm doing with 13th Age. There's an escalation die, right? So the way I'm handling the escalation die, which is a brilliant idea from 13th Age, is I'm simply going to make a magic item that allows the escalation die to work for all the player characters, right? So anything you find in another tabletop role-playing game, don't run that tabletop role-playing game. Just create a magic item that allows the best ideas from that other tabletop role-playing game to fit right into your Dungeons & Dragons game. And that is not homebrew. That is exactly the way the game was designed by Gary Gygax, carried forward by Mike Merles, where, anything that you like from another game, magic items are a fantastic platform to bring them in for one character or for all your characters, right? And you don't need to modify Dungeons & Dragons in any way to bring in fantastic ideas from other tabletop role-playing games. That's built right into the system. It's not even homebrew, right? So that's why I'm reading 13th Age, is to bring amazing ideas from 13th Age into my 5th edition campaign, right? And I encourage all dungeon masters to buy and read, entire tabletop role-playing games, strip them for parts, and bring all that into Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition game, and make your 5th edition game the best game you can, right, for you and your players, right? So what is in 13th Age? So first of all, let's talk about the creators. So Robert Hansu and Jonathan Tweet built this game. Now, you're talking about the design lead from D&D 3rd edition and the design lead from D&D D&D 4th edition. Oh my gosh, can you imagine being these two dudes? So Jonathan, and can you imagine that they're friends? Like, Jonathan Tweet is like, yeah, I took Dungeons & Dragons and put a booster rocket on it with 3rd edition and created an OGL that allowed, and then, my edition had an OGL attached to it, which allowed it, to grow Dungeons & Dragons massively. Here's my friend Robert Hansu. He created an edition of Dungeons & Dragons that the game barely survived, and it single-handedly made D&D's greatest competitor, Paizo, today. Right? Like, Jonathan Tweet was outrageously successful, and Robert Hansu's he's got to hang his head every time somebody mentions his edition. It's like, Can you even be proud of that? Like, you almost broke the entire community in half. Like, it's crazy. But these two dudes teamed up together and they made 13th Age, and it is insanely good. So what is the biggest lesson, the biggest takeaway from 13th Age for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition? Now, first of all, I used to say, oh, this could be the next edition, right? But here's the thing. I am convinced we have 4 to 5 more years of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition because of the pandemic. I think the pandemic forced their hand, and there's no possibility that Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro can announce a new Dungeons & Dragons edition before the 50th anniversary and before the movie. They can't do it. It's so insanely risky. And so I think the pandemic made a lock that 5th edition will be the longest living edition of Dungeons & Dragons in the game's history. Right now, that belongs to 1E. 1E went from 1974 to 1989, right? And I know you're all like, oh, that's like 4 different editions, Scott. You're wrong. 1E went from 1974 to 1989, okay? So that's 15 years, right? And so I think there's a possibility that and of course 5th edition came out in 2014, right? So, and oh, you know what? I'm sorry. So it'll be the second longest, because that means it's only, we've only had it for 7 years right now, but I think it's going to end up being 11 or 12. I guess it's not going to be 16 years old, right? So it'll be the second longest edition. So what does 13th Age prove? 13th Age proves something incredibly important, and that is I would like the entire Dungeons & Dragons game to be a 99-page book, literally 2 digits in length, right? That means the DMG, the PHB, and the MM all in 99 pages. I know I'm not going to get that I'm never going to get a 99-page book I don't think we'll see it for 20 years, right? But 13th Age said you can create a 300-page book, not a ridiculous like Zweihander 600-page tome, right? Which is literally, it's darn near obscene. But you can make a single book that has the MM, the DMG, and the PHB all in one book. It's 300 pages long. You can get Dungeons & Dragons down to one book. And one book can be used to do everything. Create characters, build up DMs, and supply all the monsters. That is a major, major gauntlet that's been thrown down by 13th Age. I am absolutely amazed by how strongly 13th Age has been able to do this. And it's proven, right? Like, you can do this. It's real. Like, you can deliver a very real one-page book for Dungeons & Dragons and strip this thing down from 3 books all the way down to 1 book. And 13th Age is fantastic. It's just one of the best independent fantasy tabletop role-playing games I've ever seen. And it proves that Dungeons & Dragons could be stripped to 1 book. And I think that what they could do is they could do Dungeons & Dragons Accelerated and print it within a year or 2. And I think that would be fantastic. All that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below.